Welcome to Lecture 10, Cybersecurity and its Weakest Link. I'm Dr. Ala Jabbar Al-Maliki from the School of Computing at University Utara, Malaysia. In modern computer science, we face a distinct paradox. Look at this architecture. We can engineer mathematically perfect firewalls, layer complex encryption protocols, and seal network perimeters so tightly that an external breach is practically impossible. Yet, successful cyber attacks occur daily. The failure point isn't in the code. It appears when we add the human operator to the model. If manipulated, they can transfer the cryptographic key directly to an external threat, bypassing the firewall completely. Despite all of our modern technological advancements, the human element remains the single weakest link in any computing system. This vulnerability stems from three realities. People make mistakes, they can be manipulated, and they often lack threat awareness. In system architecture, security awareness carries the exact same weight as security technology. Designing a secure network while ignoring the fallibility of the human operator guarantees systemic failure. Today, we will break down exactly how this happens. First, we will map out these human-centric vulnerabilities to clearly understand our threat surface. Next, we define the four specific issues of human behavior that consistently lead to systemic breaches. Finally, we will examine the engineering optimization challenge known as usable security. By the end of this session, the absolute goal is for you to approach your engineering work differently, prioritizing the design of secure systems that account for the reality of fallible users, rather than focusing solely on the security of the code itself. Let's look at this taxonomy tree, starting with our root concept, human factors. In a cybersecurity context, this refers to the behaviors, actions, and daily decisions of end users that actively impact system integrity. Technical vulnerabilities, like a flaw in a routing protocol, can be fixed with a software patch. Human vulnerabilities, like trusting an unknown source or reusing an old password, cannot be resolved through code alone. They require systemic management. The first major branch of this tree is social engineering. This is the deliberate manipulation of users to willingly hand over information or bypass security parameters, most commonly executed through phishing emails. The second branch covers poor security practices. These are routine mechanical failures, employees sharing login credentials, selecting weak passwords, or continually ignoring system update prompts. Next, we map insider threats. This accounts for internal personnel who compromise the network, whether through intentional, malicious data theft or sheer accidental exposure. Finally, the taxonomy completes with lack of training. An end user cannot actively defend against a threat vector they do not comprehend. You can deploy an otherwise flawlessly programmed application, but if the authorized user behaves insecurely, the defense is rendered useless. To solve for these human factors, we turn to this graph mapping usability on the x-axis and security on the y-axis. This is the engineering optimization problem of usable security, designing systems that are mathematically robust yet operationally fluid. The friction here is straightforward. Imposing strict, high-friction security protocols usually degrades system usability and slows down employee workflow. Conversely, if you design a frictionless system optimized purely for user convenience, represented here by a glass door with no lock, you lack robust security controls. The Iron Vault provides maximum security, but zero usability. Consider complex cryptographic passwords. Enforcing a 20-character randomized string ensures absolute mathematical security, but it destroys usability. The user will simply write the password on a sticky note attached to their monitor, negating the security entirely. Allowing a simple, easily remembered password is highly usable, but it can be defeated in seconds by a brute force attack. This highlights our first major design challenge, user resistance. If security measures slow down a task, users actively avoid them. We must engineer our way into this center area, an optimal balance where security is strong, but users remain efficient. The second challenge is the inherent psychological bias toward convenience. When forced to choose between the secure route and the fast route, humans reliably default to the path of least resistance. The third challenge is design complexity itself. It is difficult to program an interface that simultaneously satisfies strict information security requirements and the principles of human-computer interaction. The fourth challenge is the simple inevitability of human error. During daily system operations, people will eventually click the wrong button. Developers cannot expect perfect users. We must engineer systems that anticipate these flaws, actively reduce error rates, and subtly enforce secure behavior without triggering user frustration. To see this framework in practice, let's deconstruct 4 distinct failure profiles shown here in this grid. In Quadrant 1, an employee receives a malicious email, clicks the link, and has their credentials stolen. The perimeter failed because of a lack of user awareness. This proves that ongoing behavioral training is a critical system dependency. In Quadrant 2, accounts are compromised through brute force attacks against weak passwords. The system architecture allowed poor practices to dictate the level of security. The engineering solution here is the strict enforcement of system-level password policies that prevent a weak credential from ever being created. Quadrant 3 maps an insider threat scenario where an employee leaks sensitive corporate data. Trust within a network cannot be absolute. Internal monitoring and strict access control, the principle of least privilege, are essential engineering steps to mitigate internal exposure. Finally, Quadrant 4 shows users actively routing around complex firewall checkpoints. This is a textbook failure of usable security. When a protocol prevents someone from doing their job efficiently, the human operator will simply find a way around it. While these manifest as technological breaches, every single one shares the same root cause: a failure to properly design for human-computer interaction. To summarize today's lecture, let's look at this matrix. Software engineers cannot simply code away the human element. Robust cybersecurity requires a foundation built on 3 distinct pillars. Human behavior, specifically social engineering and poor daily practices, remains responsible for the vast majority of modern network breaches. The first pillar is continuous training. Organizations must constantly patch their human software through rigorous, ongoing education. The second pillar is security awareness. Fostering a culture of vigilance provides a defense layer as important as cryptography. The third pillar is user-friendly design. We must engineer systems that intuitively guide users towards secure choices, rather than fighting their natural workflows. True cybersecurity does not exist in a mathematical vacuum. It only exists when strong protection aligns seamlessly with ease of use. Your mandate as future computer scientists is to build architecture that retains its integrity, even when placed in the hands of everyday humans. Thank you for your attention. I am Dr. Ala Jabbar Al-Maliki. This concludes Lecture 10 for the School of Computing.